Hey guys, tonight we're starting with something heavy. A story of mud, mines and misery. We're stepping into the life of a sapper in the Vietnam War. Forget the glamorous action movie scenes, the dramatic explosions and the Hollywood versions of fearless soldiers. The truth is far uglier, far more exhausting, and most of us wouldn't last more than a few hours. Before we sink into it, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you actually enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see who's joining these late night dives. Now dim the lights, let the fan hum, get comfortable, and let's move slowly into the jungle. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1969. In the thick of the Vietnam War. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, you're alive in the middle of the jungle, and the day ahead of you isn't about coffee or checking emails. It's about carrying explosives, crawling through mud, and hoping you don't vanish into the dark before the sun comes back up. You open your eyes and immediately regret it. It's not the kind of morning where sunlight slips through curtains or bird song makes you feel alive. It's a different kind of light, filtered through a ceiling of leaves so thick it turns the sky into a dull green haze. The air is already heavy before the day even begins, thick with humidity that coats your lungs like wet wool. Every breath feels like you're trying to drink the atmosphere instead of inhale it. You didn't wake up in a bed. There's no mattress, no pillow, no blanket. You woke up in a patch of dirt that has absorbed last night's sweat, rain, and whatever crawled past while you were too exhausted to notice. The smell is impossible to ignore. It's not one smell, but a stack of them piled on top of each other. Damp jungle rot from the leaves that never dry. Smoke still lingering from a cooking fire someone tried to hide, sweat from bodies pressed together in the night, and the faint chemical tang of explosives packed close by. If you thought morning breath was bad at home, here it blends with the stench of mildew, gun oil, and unwashed uniforms that haven't seen soap in months. You don't wake up feeling clean. You wake up wondering what part of you will start to rot first. The ground beneath you isn't flat. Roots dig into your back like sticks in a cage. Stones press into your ribs. Ants crawl over your legs with the arrogance of landlords checking their property. You swat at them, but it doesn't matter. They'll be back. Everything in this jungle is alive, and everything seems determined to remind you that you're not welcome here. Leeches slide toward any exposed skin. Mosquitoes buzz so close to your ears it sounds like they're mocking you. They don't just bite, they feast. And if you're lucky, you only walk away with welts. If you're unlucky, you get malaria. And malaria doesn't care if you're carrying a rifle or a pack of explosives. It takes you down just the same. Sleep wasn't really sleep. It was a few restless hours lying still, ears straining at every snap of a twig, every distant shout, every rustle that might be wind or might be someone moving through the brush. You didn't stretch out. You curled up with your weapon like a desperate lover, because the idea of not having it within reach is more frightening than the dream you were having. And those dreams aren't pleasant either. They're jagged flashes of noise and fire, mixed with the constant dread of what's waiting when your eyes open. The heat doesn't wait until noon. It's already here, pressing down on you, clinging to your skin. Your clothes are damp before you even move. Sweat collects on your face, your arms, your back, and the salty sting runs into your eyes before you can blink it away. There's no towel to mop it up. You just wipe your sleeve across your face, which smears dirt into your pores and makes the itch worse. Your uniform smells like a wet dog left in a cellar. The fabric is rough against your skin, stiff where it dried and slimy where it didn't. Every inch of you feels sticky, itchy, and tired. The soundscape is relentless. Cicadas scream from every tree, their shrill chorus rising and falling like an alarm clock that never shuts off. Birds call out in tones that sound more like warnings than songs. Somewhere deeper in the jungle, there's the splash of something heavy moving in water. Could be a lizard, could be something else. You don't have the luxury of curiosity. You just catalogue the sound, remember it, and keep listening for the ones that matter. The muffled shuffle of boots in mud, the click of a safety, the low murmur of voices in a language you don't understand. You try to sit up. Your back cracks, your muscles protest, your legs feel heavier than they should. Every joint is swollen from sleeping on dirt, and the soreness mixes with the bruises from carrying too much weight yesterday. The pack you hauled wasn't full of spare clothes or comfort items. It was full of wire cutters, explosive charges, and tools for tearing down what other men built. You don't pack light. You don't pack safe. Every step of your life depends on carrying things designed to kill, and every morning you wake up wondering if today will be the day they do. There's no privacy. You shift upright, and immediately you're reminded that everyone else is packed in around you. Other bodies, other weapons, the soft groans of men trying to stretch their arms without knocking someone's helmet. You don't get a room of your own. You get a patch of dirt next to people who are just as tired, just as filthy, just as on edge. If you cough, 3 others cough back. If you scratch, someone else scratches too. You're a moving hive of exhaustion, and you're never alone. Your mouth is dry before you even swallow. You reach for your canteen, already knowing the water inside tastes like warm metal mixed with plastic. It's never cold, never refreshing, never pure. It's just something you force down because the alternative is worse. Even the act of drinking is risky. You never know if today's sip is the one that gives you dysentery. You tip the canteen back anyway, and the lukewarm trickle makes your stomach flip. There's no relief. Just the bare minimum to keep you on your feet. The first thing you think about isn't food, or comfort, or even survival. It's your job. Because you don't get to wake up slowly, stretch, and decide what kind of day you want to have. Your day is already assigned. It involves cutting wire, crawling low, and carrying explosives into places that don't want you there. The mission starts the moment you open your eyes. Every second you waste is another chance for the enemy to find you before you find them. The dirt clings to your skin like a second uniform. Your fingernails are lined with mud. Your hair is plastered down with sweat. You don't get a mirror, but if you did, you wouldn't recognise the face staring back. Sunken eyes rimmed with red, skin smeared with grime, a jaw tight from clenching through the night. You're 20 years old, but already look twice that, and the day hasn't even started. You check your boots, because you have to. You shake them out, watching a spider crawl free, then jam your sore feet back in. The boots are waterlogged, never dry, and the smell of rotting leather clings to them like a warning label. Your socks are damp rags that rub your skin raw. Trench foot isn't a story from another war. It's a daily possibility here. You know men who've had toes blacken and rot because they couldn't get their boots off in time. Every step is a gamble between blisters and infection. The jungle doesn't care that you're awake. It's already alive, buzzing, rustling, steaming. The canopy traps the air so nothing ever really cools down. Sweat doesn't evaporate, clothes never dry. Fire smoke hangs low and seeps into your lungs. Even standing still makes you feel like you're suffocating. And you know that before the day is over, you'll be crawling on your belly, pressing your face into this same mud, trying not to breathe too loud. You don't get a moment to shake off the night. Orders come quickly, low voices reminding you what needs to be done. You listen, because not listening is fatal. The details shift from day to day, but the outline is the same. You'll be going forward where others don't want to, clearing paths, cutting fences, slipping past watchtowers, laying charges. You're the blade edge of the operation, and everyone else depends on you. It doesn't matter that you're tired, sore, hungry, or sick. The job doesn't care. The jungle doesn't care. The war doesn't care. Your stomach growls, but you don't pay attention. The food will come later, if it comes at all. Breakfast isn't a meal here. It's a chew on something stale and hard, maybe a can of cold beans if you're lucky. Right now it doesn't matter. What matters is that you've woken up, and the jungle hasn't taken you yet. That's the victory. Just opening your eyes, just realising you're still here. Everything after that is borrowed time. And so you pull yourself upright, push your damp helmet onto your head, and grip the weapon that feels like both lifeline and curse. The weight of the explosives is waiting. The path forward is already calling. And the jungle doesn't give you a choice. You're awake, whether you want to be or not. The sun climbs, and the jungle changes its mood. If the night was heavy, the day is suffocating. Heat doesn't arrive here the way it does in other places, slowly building with the rising sun. It starts thick before dawn, and then turns unbearable as soon as the light filters through the canopy. You don't ease into it. It presses against you like a hand on your chest, squeezing with every breath, making you aware that air isn't something you take for granted anymore. Every inhale feels like pulling steam straight into your lungs. You can't escape it. Your uniform, already damp from the night, now becomes a prison. The fabric sticks to your back, your legs, your arms. It rubs raw patches into your skin, where sweat mixes with friction. The weight of it feels multiplied by the humidity. Every movement drags, every step pulls. You'd give anything for dry clothes, but there's no such thing here. The jungle doesn't allow it. Even after you've wrung the fabric out, even after you've laid it near a fire, the moisture creeps back in within minutes. It's like wearing a sponge that never dries. Sweat doesn't just run, it pours. It seeps down your face, drips off your chin, soaks your collar. It fills the hollows of your back and slides into the waistband of your trousers until everything feels slick. You wipe it away, but it only comes back thicker. You can't tell where your own sweat ends and the dampness of the air begins. By mid-morning, your body feels like it's dissolving. Dehydration creeps in even as you drink. The water you gulp doesn't refresh. It just heats up in your stomach and makes you nauseous. You're always drinking, always sweating, and never balanced. The jungle floor becomes a furnace. Mud that was cool and sticky at night bakes under the filtered sunlight, turning into hot sludge that clings to your boots. Every step is heavy. Every lift of the foot feels like dragging yourself out of quicksand. The heat rises from the ground, wraps around your legs, and squeezes with every stride. You're walking through a place designed to drain you faster than you can recover. Breathing is its own battle. The air is thick, not just with humidity, but with smoke, pollen, and dust stirred up by movement. Each breath tastes faintly metallic, mixed with the sour tang of rotting vegetation. You take in air, and it feels like swallowing warm water. You exhale, and it's like you didn't get any relief. It's constant suffocation in slow motion. When you pause, it doesn't feel like rest. It feels like drowning in place. Flies cling to the sweat on your skin. They hover in clusters near your face, landing on your lips, your eyelids, anywhere moist. You swat at them, but they return instantly, drawn to the salt and dampness you can't hide. Mosquitoes join in, feeding freely because repellent is never enough. The sound of their wings is a constant whine in your ears, blending with the shriek of cicadas and the distant rumble of artillery you pretend isn't aimed anywhere near you. Every drop of sweat is an invitation, and they accept without hesitation. The sun doesn't need to burn your skin directly to do damage. It filters through the leaves in beams that pierce down like spotlights. Stand under one for even a minute and your neck feels like it's blistering. Shade doesn't save you either. The heat gathers under the canopy, trapped, stagnant. It doesn't matter where you walk. It doesn't matter if you hide behind foliage. The temperature never drops. You're cooking slowly, inside your uniform, inside your skin. The body reacts in ways you can't control. Your vision blurs for moments at a time. A wave of dizziness comes when you crouch too quickly. Your stomach clenches and twists, as if reminding you that the water you forced down isn't settling right. The pounding in your skull grows louder with every step. You know the signs. Heat stroke doesn't wait until the hottest hour. It sneaks in whenever your body finally decides it's had enough. Some men fall where they stand, unable to move, unable to even speak. They don't faint gracefully. They collapse into the mud, twitching, mouths foaming, eyes rolling back. And you can't help them much. There's no ice, no fan, no hospital around the corner. Just shade that isn't really shade and water that may already be poisoned. Every object you carry becomes twice as heavy. Your rifle, your pack, the satchel with charges packed inside, all of it drags on your shoulders like anchors. The straps dig into your skin, cutting deeper because sweat has softened the flesh underneath. The ache doesn't leave your muscles. It builds, minute after minute, until your arms feel like they're hanging from threads. And still, you don't put it down. You can't. Setting it aside, even for a moment, isn't an option. The heat punishes you, but letting go would kill you faster. Time stops making sense. Minutes stretch into hours. Hours melt into something you can't measure. There's no clock here, only the rising and setting of light that filters differently through the canopy. The middle of the day feels endless, like the world has decided to pause at its most punishing setting. You march, you crawl, you crouch in mud, and the heat follows every move. You stop noticing the sound of your boots, because all you hear now is your own breathing, shallow and ragged, as you fight not to black out. The jungle amplifies your misery. Leaves drip with condensation that isn't cool, just more warm dampness to coat your already soaked skin. Vines snag on your arms, scratch against sweat-slicked flesh, and leave welts that sting with salt. Your helmet traps more heat around your head, turning your skull into an oven. You can't take it off, you can't loosen your clothes, there's no relief. Just layers of fabric Steel and sweat sealing you inside a private furnace you can't escape. Men around you look the same, faces pale under a sheen of sweat, eyes glazed, lips cracked. No one talks much in this weather. Words take effort. Breathing takes effort. Lifting your foot takes effort. Communication narrows down to grunts, hand signals and looks that all mean the same thing. Keep moving. Don't stop. Don't think about it. Complaining is pointless. The heat doesn't listen. The jungle doesn't care. Even the animals know how to deal with it better than you. Lizards bask and vanish into the underbrush. Birds go silent in the middle of the day, hiding in the shadows. You don't get that choice? You keep walking, keep crawling, keep cutting paths through vines while the air presses tighter and tighter. The jungle is designed for them, not you. You're the intruder, sweating and stumbling through a place that was never meant to be occupied by humans carrying explosives. Your body keeps leaking salt until your skin burns. Sweat-soaked clothes rub raw spots into your thighs, under your arms, along your waist. The sores open, sting, and attract more insects. Infection waits patiently. The smell of your own body becomes something foreign, sour and animal-like, mixed with the ever-present gun oil and dirt. You stop noticing until it hits you suddenly and makes your stomach twist. Then you move again, and it's back to being background noise. Just another layer of discomfort. You dream of cold without even realizing it. The idea of stepping into a shaded room with a fan becomes fantasy. The thought of ice water feels as far away as another planet. Instead, you choke down tepid canteen water that tastes faintly of chemicals, hoping it buys you another half hour of movement. You think about swimming, but the streams and rivers around you are traps. Parasites, leeches, and worse lurk there. You can't cool off without risking your health. And you can't risk your health without risking everything. When night finally promises relief, it doesn't deliver. The heat lingers long after the sun disappears. The ground radiates it back into your body, keeping you damp, sticky, and exhausted. You lie there, trying to find a patch of earth that feels cooler, but there isn't one. The air stops moving entirely, so you're left with nothing but the heavy blanket of humidity pressing down on your chest. The only difference is the darkness, and with it, the fear of what's moving beyond your vision. The heat isn't an inconvenience, it's a weapon. It breaks you slowly, strips away your energy, and makes every task twice as hard. It makes your mind slow, your reactions sluggish, your decisions foggy. And in this place, one mistake, one hesitation, can mean the difference between returning to camp or being carried back under a tarp. The heat is patient. It doesn't rush. It just sits on you all day, all night, until you understand there's no fighting it. There's only enduring it, breath by heavy breath, until your body finally gives in. When the sun finally goes down, you'd think it might mean rest. That's what night is supposed to be. A pause, a reset, the time your body takes to repair itself. But here, sleep isn't something you get. It's something you gamble with. The jungle doesn't shut down after dark. It only changes rhythm. The daytime shriek of cicadas fades, but it's replaced with the croak of frogs, the drone of mosquitoes, and the snap of unseen things moving through the brush. The darkness is never still. It's alive, and it's loud enough to make your nerves vibrate. Your bed is the ground, always the ground. Dirt that hasn't dried in weeks, still wet from rain, sticky from sweat, softened just enough to suck at anything pressed into it. You lay down and feel roots dig into your spine, rocks pushing into your ribs, ants crawling over your legs. Sometimes you shift, trying to find a better spot, but there isn't one. Everywhere is the same, hard, uneven, and crawling with life that doesn't care you're trying to sleep. There's no pillow. Your helmet doubles as one if you're desperate enough to rest your head against cold steel, but it cuts into your neck, and the edge leaves lines in your face by morning. You can fold your arms under your head, but that just cuts off circulation until your hands tingle and go numb. Most of the time, you just give up on comfort and let your skull rest in the mud, pretending it's softer than it is. Blankets don't exist. You've got your uniform, which is already soaked through with sweat. Sometimes the night air feels cooler, and for a few moments you almost shiver. But the dampness clings, and instead of warmth, you get a chill that sinks into your bones. Other nights, the heat refuses to let up, and lying there feels like being wrapped in a wet rag you can't peel off. There's no version of this where you're comfortable. Sleep is shallow because it has to be. You can't shut yourself off completely. You lie there, eyes half closed, ears tuned to every noise, waiting for the sound that doesn't belong. A twig snapping too close, a hushed voice in the wrong language, the sudden pop of gunfire in the distance. You never know when the next attack will come, so your body learns to doze in fragments. 10 minutes here, 20 there. You wake up from every rustle, every cough, every shift from the man lying next to you. You're never truly unconscious. You're just borrowing a little rest until something jolts you back awake. And then there are the insects. Mosquitoes swarm your ears, whining so close it feels like they're crawling inside your head. You slap at them, roll over, tuck your face into your arm, and they still find a way through. Leeches crawl toward the warmth of your body and latch onto skin under your collar, under your socks, inside places you don't want to think about. By morning you've lost blood, and the sticky trails they leave behind itch like fire. Ants march in lines across your body, biting when you shift. Spiders scuttle across your arms, your chest, your face. After a while you stop reacting. There's no point. They're part of the night, and you're outnumbered. Noise never stops. Men whispering low, trying to distract themselves with muttered conversation. Someone coughing, wet and ragged, a reminder of the sickness spreading through camp. A cry off in the jungle. Animal or human, you're never quite sure. The distant thump of artillery or the sudden rip of machine gun fire carries through the air, too far to see but close enough to imagine. Even silence isn't silent. In the jungle, it means something is holding its breath. The smell is worse at night. Heat traps odours during the day, but darkness makes them sharper. Sweat, mildew, unwashed bodies, wet boots, rotting vegetation. A mix so strong it settles in the back of your throat. You can't escape it. You lie there, breathing through your mouth, tasting the staleness of the air. You try to ignore it, but it seeps into your dreams. And even there, you can't get away from it. Sometimes you're assigned to guard duty, which means sleep isn't even an option. You crouch in the mud, eyes straining into blackness, weapon ready, heart pounding at every movement. Hours stretch forever when you're watching shadows shift, waiting for an enemy you may never see until it's too late. When your shift ends, you're too wired to collapse into rest. Your body still hums with adrenaline, and by the time it drains away, dawn is already breaking. Even when you manage to sleep, it doesn't heal. You wake up more tired than before. Your muscles are stiff from lying on uneven ground. Your skin is raw from scratching at bites all night. Your stomach twists from whatever you ate last, still sitting heavy because digestion doesn't work right when you're this exhausted. You rub your eyes, but the grit never goes away. There's no refresh, no morning stretch that clears your head. There's just a deeper layer of fatigue piling on top of yesterday's. Dreams aren't an escape. They're flashes of home that sting when you open your eyes and remember where you are. They're memories of friends already gone, faces that slip away as soon as you reach for them. They're visions of firefights, explosions, the sound of screaming that blends with the jungle chorus until you can't tell if you're asleep or reliving the last mission. Waking up doesn't make them stop. It just changes the setting. You don't get used to it. People say the body adapts, that eventually exhaustion forces you into deep sleep no matter the conditions. Maybe that's true for someone else, but not here. Here the fear keeps you awake, the insects keep you awake, the heat keeps you awake, the noise keeps you awake. And when your body finally collapses into unconsciousness, it's never deep enough to matter. It's a fragile state, easily shattered by the snap of a branch or the hiss of a flare. By the time the sky starts to lighten, you don't feel like you slept. You feel like you lost another battle against a night that dragged on too long. Your body is stiff, your eyes burn, your head throbs, and the only thing waiting is another day that will demand more than you have to give. Sleep isn't rest here. It's a pause filled with misery, broken up by fear. It's not enough to restore you, but just enough to keep you going, and that's the cruelest part. Because tomorrow night, it happens all over again. You can tell yourself that the gunfire is the biggest threat, or the landmines, or the wire waiting for you in the dark. But sooner or later, you realise there's something else wearing you down. Something smaller, quieter, and far more persistent. The jungle is alive, and every living thing in it seems determined to sink its teeth, stingers, or suckers into you. The war isn't just against other men. It's against every insect, parasite, and crawling nightmare that treats your body like its territory. Start with mosquitoes, because they're always first. They don't come one at a time. They come in clouds, thick enough to blur your vision if you shine a light. They follow heat, they follow sweat, they follow breath. The second your uniform sleeve rides up, they're there. The sound of their wings is constant, a high-pitched whine in your ears that never fades, like an alarm you can't shut off. You slap at them, smear blood across your arm, but it doesn't matter. For every one you kill, 10 more hover in to take its place. Each bite swells, itches, burns. You scratch until your skin breaks, and then the wound festers in the heat and humidity. You smear on repellent, thick and greasy, but it washes away with sweat in an hour. Sometimes you swear the mosquitoes like it, swarming even harder as if the chemical is just a dinner bell. They carry more than irritation. Malaria, dengue, Japanese encephalitis. You don't see the infection coming until the fever hits, and by then you're shaking, sweating, vomiting, trying to figure out if this is the sickness that will end you before the enemy does. Then there are the leeches. You don't notice them right away. That's their trick. They attach silently, soft bodies wriggling from the mud, from the water, from the foliage you brush against. They find the warmth of your skin, and they bite without you feeling it. Hours later, you glance down and see one fat and swollen, clinging to your ankle, your thigh, your arm. It's been feeding on you the whole time, bloating bigger with your blood. You peel it off, and the wound doesn't close. The bite keeps bleeding, running down your leg, soaking into your socks. You can tape it, you can press cloth against it, but the clotting doesn't come fast in this climate. You just bleed and keep walking, leaving a trail the jungle doesn't care to hide. Leeches don't just go for legs. They crawl into boots, up your sleeves, into your waistband. Some even drop from trees, wriggling through collars, latching onto your chest, your back, your neck. You wake up in the night with one fattened thing pulsing against your skin, already engorged from hours of drinking. By morning, you're weaker than you should be, not from battle, but because the jungle has been taking its share while you try to rest. Ants are worse in numbers. They travel in rivers across the jungle floor, and if you're unlucky enough to rest near one of their trails, you'll find out quickly. They climb onto your pack, into your boots, up your trousers, and they don't bite politely. They sting hard, leaving burning welts that swell into red patches across your skin. Some ants are fire ants, aggressive and relentless. They attack together, hundreds at once, until you're dancing in place, swatting at your legs, trying to strip your clothes before they chew through every inch of flesh they can reach. Sleep near a nest, and you don't sleep at all. You wake in the middle of the night, covered in crawling, biting pain, and all you can do is endure it until the swarm loses interest. Spiders are quieter, but no less unnerving. Some weave webs across paths, sticky lines you don't see until your face ploughs through them. The next thought is always the same. Where is the spider that spun this? Sometimes it's small, scurrying away into the leaves. Other times it's large, fat-bodied, perched in the web waiting for prey that isn't you but will bite you anyway. The bite swells, throbs, sometimes even oozes in the heat. You don't know what kind of spider it was, and you don't have the luxury of a field guide. You just deal with it and keep moving, hoping the venom doesn't do more than make you itch for days. Snakes don't bite often, but they're always in the back of your mind. You don't step without looking. You don't move through grass without listening. One strike in the dark and you're done. But even when they don't strike, they're part of the weight pressing on your nerves. Every branch could hide one. Every puddle could mask one. You're never sure, and that uncertainty gnaws at you worse than the bite itself. Then there are the scorpions, the centipedes, the beetles. You don't think about them until they're inside your boots or under your shirt, their bodies pressed against your skin, legs wriggling as you scramble to strip down. Their stings burn, their bites ache, and even when they're not deadly, they remind you that you're not safe, not for a moment, not even when you're still. Fleas and lice thrive here too. Your uniform becomes a mobile breeding ground, soaked with sweat, never washed properly, passed from day to day until it carries more insects than fabric. You scratch constantly, nails dragging across skin until you draw blood. The itching never stops. It wakes you at night, distracts you in the day, drives you half mad with irritation. It's a reminder that the jungle isn't just outside you. It's inside your clothes, against your skin, burrowed into your scalp. You try to keep yourself clean, but the effort is pointless. Streams are filled with parasites. Rainwater collect in barrels already wriggling with larvae. Washing means undressing, exposing yourself, and giving more insects time to bite. The grime builds, and with it, the population of bugs that thrive on your body. You start to accept it, not because it gets easier, but because resistance is wasted energy. The jungle always wins. The worst part isn't the pain or the itching, it's the exhaustion. Every bite, every sting, every night spent scratching instead of sleeping chips away at your strength. You're not just tired from carrying explosives or crawling through wire. You're tired from the swarm that never stops feeding on you. You wake up weaker than you should be, not because you fought an enemy, but because thousands of tiny enemies fought you while you were lying still. There's no reprieve. Netting tears, repellent fades, sleeves ride up. The insects find their way in no matter what you do, and the jungle doesn't give you time to recover. Infection sets in fast. One bite swells, turns red, oozes pus. The itching becomes pain, the pain becomes fever, and suddenly a mosquito bite is threatening your life more than the rifle pointed your way. This is the part no one talks about in movies. Not the firefight, not the heroics, but the slow erosion of your body by bugs that don't care who you are. They don't recognise uniforms or flags. They just feed, and they keep feeding until you're worn down to nothing. The enemy in front of you is dangerous, but the enemy crawling on you, biting you, sucking your blood, breaking your skin, that one never goes away. The first thing that hits you in the morning isn't light or sound. It's the smell. It's always the smell. You open your eyes, and before you can even sit up, it's already pressed into your nose and mouth, forcing you to breathe it in, whether you want to or not. It isn't one odour you can identify and push aside. It's a mixture, layered and tangled. A cocktail of stench that makes your stomach churn before you've had a bite of food. Sweat comes first. Not fresh sweat, but the stale, sour smell of bodies that haven't been washed properly in weeks. Dozens of men packed together in the heat, uniforms soaked through, boots never dry. The air is heavy with it. You smell it on yourself before you smell it on anyone else. Your skin is sticky, your shirt clings to you, and the sour tang of your own sweat already feels rotten, like it aged overnight. Multiply that by every other body around you, and you're breathing in a haze of human exhaustion that never clears. Then there's the jungle itself, rotting vegetation, leaves and branches breaking down in mud that never dries, filling the air with the constant background note of decay. It's sweet in the worst way, a sugary rot that sticks to the back of your throat. Every step you take stirs it up again, and every breath you take fills your lungs with a stink of plants decomposing all around you. It's the smell of a forest that never gets a chance to dry out, never resets, just keeps rotting endlessly. Add in the mud. Mud here isn't just dirt and water. It's layered with animal droppings, spilled rations, leaking oil, and sometimes blood. You kneel in it, you lie in it, you breathe it. It has its own stench, thick and earthy, mixed with whatever has died in it recently. If you're unlucky, the mud is masking something worse underneath. A carcass, a latrine pit, or a puddle that men have already used, because there was no other choice. It clings to your boots, your uniform, your skin, and it carries the smell with it. Gun oil cuts through the rot, sharp and metallic. Every weapon is coated in it, because it has to be, because the humidity would rust metal in a day otherwise. The smell seeps into your hands, stains your clothes, mixes with sweat until you can't separate one from the other. You taste it when you lick your lips without thinking, metallic and bitter, reminding you that the tools you carry are never far from your mouth, your skin, your lungs. The smoke never really leaves either. Small cooking fires, hidden as best as possible, leave a trace of burnt wood and ash that lingers in the air. It settles into your hair, your clothes, your pack. Every time you shift, you get another faint puff of it. And sometimes the smoke isn't from cooking. Sometimes it's from the distance. Artillery strikes or bombings, a darker, heavier smell that's part fuel, part earth, part something else you don't want to identify. Burnt ground, burnt wood, burnt flesh. You catch it and hope it's far away, but you never really know. Unwashed uniforms add another layer. The fabric has been soaked and dried 100 times, never with soap, always with sweat and rain and mud. They carry a mildew smell, damp and sour, like laundry left in a bucket for weeks. Every fold of the cloth releases it when you move, and it mixes with the smell of your own body until you can't tell which is which. You put it on anyway because it's the only set you have. The stink becomes your skin. And then there are the bodies, not always close, but never far. The jungle hides them, half buried in mud or tangled in vines, but the smell finds you. Sweet and rancid, unmistakable, the smell of death lingering under the green canopy. Sometimes it drifts in on the wind, faint but sharp enough to twist your stomach. Sometimes it's closer, a whiff as you pass a patch of ground you don't want to look at too closely. You don't point it out. Everyone smells it. No one says anything. You just keep moving and try not to think about it. Food isn't a break from it either. Rations come in cans, and when you crack one open, the smell of processed meat or beans joins the mix. It doesn't smell good. It smells chemical, salty, preserved past reason. Eating it feels like forcing more stink into an air already full of it. Your stomach clenches, but you eat because you don't have a choice. Hunger doesn't care about smell. Mix it all together, and you realise the jungle never smells clean. There's no fresh air, no breeze that clears it out. Every breath carries sweat, rot, oil, smoke, mildew, and worse. You stop expecting relief. You stop hoping for it. The stench is part of you now, as much a part of the day as your weapon or your pack. Before you've even thought about breakfast, before you've taken your first step, it's already soaked into your lungs, into your skin, into your mind. And you know it will be with you until the day ends, and then again when the next one begins. You wake up already hungry, but hunger here isn't the sharp kind you feel at home when you skip a meal. It's dull, constant, a low ache in your gut that never leaves. By morning it's worse, because whatever you ate last night was thin, bland, and barely enough to fill the corners of your stomach. You open your eyes already craving something warm, something comforting, something to remind you that life has small pleasures. But the jungle doesn't give you that. The only thing waiting is breakfast, and breakfast is just another way the war grinds you down. There's no dining hall, no mess table, no plate set out for you. Breakfast comes out of a can, if it comes at all. The rations are heavy blocks of processed food, sealed in dull metal tins. You dig one out of your pack, your hand still sticky with mud and sweat, and you already know what it's going to taste like before you open it. Salty, metallic, and old. Everything tastes faintly of the can it came in. You wedge it open with a knife, the lid bending back, and the smell hits you first. Greasy, chemical, almost rancid. It doesn't make your stomach growl. It makes it twist. Sometimes it's beans. Cold, slimy, coated in a thick syrup that sticks to your tongue. Sometimes it's a block of a mystery meat, pressed so tightly together it has the texture of rubber. You chew it and feel grease coat your teeth, sliding down your throat like something your body wants to reject immediately. Other times it's a lump of scrambled eggs that have been sitting in storage longer than you've been alive. The smell alone is punishment. You force it down anyway, because you know you need the calories. Calories mean energy, and energy is the only thing keeping your legs moving through the jungle. The crackers that come with the can are no better. Hard as stone, dry enough to scrape the inside of your mouth, they turn to paste that sticks to your gums. You chew them slowly, swallow with difficulty, and chase them with a gulp of lukewarm canteen water that tastes like metal and plastic. It doesn't wash the taste away. It just makes the paste slide reluctantly down your throat. If you're unlucky, the rations are spoiled. Heat and humidity seep into the tins, warping them, letting mould creep inside. You open one and see green fuzz spreading across what used to be food. You close it quickly, stomach rolling, and toss it aside. That means less fuel for the day, and less fuel means less strength when you're already running on fumes. Some men eat it anyway, because hunger doesn't leave you with choices. Later, they're bent over in the mud, vomiting, sweating harder than the jungle ever made them sweat, cursing the food that was supposed to keep them alive. Breakfast isn't hot. There's no stove, no coffee pot, no pan to fry eggs. Fires are dangerous, too visible, too easy to spot. You eat it cold, straight from the can, hunched over with your weapon balanced across your knees. Every bite reminds you that you're far from home, far from any idea of comfort. The closest thing to warmth is when the metal of the tin has been sitting in the sun just long enough to heat up slightly, but that warmth tastes like the jungle itself. Damp, sour, oppressive. Some mornings you don't even get the can. Supplies run thin, shipments don't make it through, and all that's left is whatever you can scrounge. Maybe it's a handful of stale rice, gritty between your teeth. Maybe it's a piece of dried fish that smells stronger than the latrines. Maybe it's nothing at all, and you march forward with an empty stomach, hoping the next meal will come before the weakness drags you down. The worst part isn't the taste, or even the hunger. It's knowing you can't escape it. This isn't one bad breakfast. This is every breakfast. Day after day of the same tin cans, the same chemical smell, the same greasy lumps sliding down your throat. There's no variety, no comfort food, no chance to start the day with something that makes you feel human. Breakfast isn't nourishment. It's another burden, another reminder that you're living on the edge of exhaustion and sickness. You watch the others eat, and it's the same picture every time. Men crouched in the mud, faces slack, chewing slowly without expression. No one talks much. There's nothing to say about food that feels like punishment. A few curse under their breath, pushing half-eaten tins aside. Others shovel it down quickly, not because they enjoy it, but because stretching it out makes it worse. Everyone washes it down with the same tepid water, the same metallic aftertaste, the same grimace. Your stomach doesn't feel full afterward. It feels heavy, unsettled, like you swallowed a stone. Instead of energy, you get fatigue. Instead of comfort, you get nausea. The day hasn't even started yet, and already your body is fighting against itself, dragging you down when you know you need to be sharp, alert, alive. Breakfast doesn't lift you up. It weighs you down, another invisible hand pressing harder against your chest as you prepare to carry explosives into the dark. The first thing you notice about what you're wearing isn't how it looks. Nobody cares how it looks. The jungle strips vanity out of you by the first week. What you notice is how it feels, and how it never feels right. The uniform is supposed to be protection, but it works against you at every turn. It doesn't shield you from the heat, it traps it. It doesn't protect you from the wet, it soaks it in and holds it against your skin. It doesn't stop insects, they crawl through it like it isn't even there. The fabric is rough, stiff even after months of wear, heavy when it's wet, heavier when it's caked with mud. It rubs raw spots into your shoulders where the straps of your pack dig in. It scrapes your thighs as you walk until your skin breaks open. Every seam chafes. The cuffs never fit right. The collar digs at your neck. The waist pinches when you squat. Every movement reminds you that the uniform wasn't designed for comfort. It was designed for endurance, and endurance feels like punishment. It's never clean. You can try to wash it in a stream, but the water only soaks it with more filth. You can hang it to dry, but the air never lets it. The fabric stays damp, sour with mildew, carrying the smell of your own sweat and every drop of rain you've marched through. After a while you stop noticing the stink until it hits you all at once, making your stomach lurch. The uniform becomes its own living thing, crawling with lice, stiff with salt, stained with blood, oil and dirt that will never come out. The boots are worse. They were meant for jungle use, but the jungle doesn't care about designs. They fill with water the second you step into mud, and that water stays. You pour it out, wring your socks, and within minutes they're soaked again. The leather rots, the stitching unravels, and the constant dampness eats into your feet. Blisters open, turn raw, and become sores. The skin between your toes peels away, red and tender, until every step is agony. Trench foot isn't something from history books here. It's a daily reality. Feet swell, turn grey, reek of rot, and you keep walking anyway because stopping isn't an option. The helmet is supposed to save your head, but most of the time it just cooks it. Metal lined with sweat-soaked cloth, trapping heat around your skull until you feel like your brain is boiling. It slides down when you crouch, digs into your forehead, leaves red lines pressed into your skin. At night it doubles as a pillow, which means you wake up with the stink of your own sweat and mildew inches from your nose. You never stop feeling its weight. It's always there, pressing, reminding you. Then there are the packs and belts strapped on top of the uniform. Webbing digs into your shoulders, cutting grooves into your skin. Straps slide out of place, twisting until they rub you raw. Every pouch holds something you need, but every pouch also adds weight. Grenades bump against your hips. Ammunition boxes slap your thighs. The explosives you carry as a sapper press against your back like a second spine, heavy and unrelenting. All of it shifts as you walk, pulling the uniform tighter against your body, grinding mud and sweat deeper into your skin. Even standing still, the uniform works against you. The moment you stop moving, it cools just enough to stick cold against your body. Then you move again, and the fabric scrapes across every raw spot. Sit down, and it bunches awkwardly, pressing wet cloth against your legs. Try to sleep, and the damp folds into itself, clinging to your skin like it's part of you. You don't take it off, not fully, because stripping down in the jungle is an invitation for every insect, leech, and parasite to take advantage. So you live in it, day after day, night after night, until you forget what it feels like to wear anything else. The uniform doesn't fit anyone properly. Sleeves are too long or too short. Trousers ride up or drag low. Boots pinch or sag. Men cut pieces away. Patch holes with tape. rip out linings, anything to make it more bearable. But no amount of adjustment makes it comfortable. It's still hot, it's still wet, it's still heavy. You end up wearing it not because you want to, but because you can't survive without it. You feel the weight of it constantly, not just the pounds of fabric and gear, but the way it drags you down, the way it makes every motion harder. You lift your foot and it feels like the mud, the boots, the straps, the helmet, the whole uniform is pulling you back down. The jungle punishes you from the outside. The uniform punishes you from the inside. Together they grind at you until you're raw, sore and exhausted before the day has even begun. And the worst part is you can't take it off. Not fully. Not for long. The second you do, you're more vulnerable than before. Bare skin in the jungle means instant punishment. Sunburn, insect bites, cuts that won't heal. So you wear it, the uniform that's supposed to protect you, but never really does. You wear it like armour, but it feels like chains. The boots are the first thing you put on, and the last thing you ever want to think about. They're supposed to be the barrier between you and the jungle floor, but they end up being just another punishment your body has to endure. They were designed for this environment, at least on paper. Canvas and leather with drainage holes drilled into the sides so the water can run out. That's the idea. In reality, they fill with water faster than they ever empty. Every step into mud, every stream crossing, every night of rain soaks them completely, and the holes just make sure more filth gets in. You wake up and your boots are already wet. They never dry. You pour them out, watch a stream of brown water spill onto the dirt, squeeze your socks until they drip, and shove them back on because there's no choice. The second your foot slides in, you feel the slime squish between your toes. By mid-morning, your feet are swimming again, skin soft and wrinkled, toenails already starting to peel from being waterlogged day after day. The weight builds quickly. Mud clings to the soles until each foot feels like it's dragging a stone. Clay packs into the treads, adding pounds that your legs have to lift with every step. Vines snag the laces, roots suck at the bottoms, puddles pull like they're trying to hold you down. Walking isn't just walking here. It's a constant fight with the ground itself, and the boots turn every fight into a losing one. The rot sets in fast. Not just in the boots, but in your feet. Skin stays damp until it breaks. Blisters swell, pop, and leave raw flesh that rubs against wet canvas and stiff leather. The friction tears at you with every step, and the dampness keeps the wounds from closing. Infection doesn't take long. Toes turn red, then purple. The skin between them peels away, soft and slimy, leaving gaps that sting with every movement. The smell creeps out when you peel off your socks, a sour, rotting stink that mixes with sweat and mildew until it's impossible to ignore. Some men call it jungle rot. Others call it trench foot, a name carried over from another war, but it doesn't matter what you call it. It means your feet are falling apart while you're still trying to walk on them. It starts small, an itch, a burn, a little numbness. Then it spreads. Toes go black, nails fall off, sores open and ooze. You know what's happening? Everyone does. But there's no cure out here. You dry your feet when you can, swap socks if you're lucky enough to have spares, sprinkle powder when supplies make it through. But nothing ever lasts. The jungle always wins. Leeches love boots too. They slip through drainage holes, wedge between sock and skin, and feed quietly while you march. Hours later you pull your boot off and find them swollen and wriggling, fattened from your blood. You peel them away, and the wound keeps bleeding long after they're gone, soaking your socks before you can lace the boot back up. You put it on anyway because you have to. Better bleeding feet than bare ones in this place. The laces cut into your ankles, stiff and caked with mud. The tongue folds wrong, pressing against the top of your foot until it leaves grooves in the skin. The soles wear down fast, thinned by miles of rocks and mud. Sharp roots and bamboo shoots pierce through, stabbing your foot even inside the boot. You feel every stone, every stick, every uneven patch of ground. Protection is a word that doesn't mean much here. At night, you don't take them off for long. Stripping down completely is a luxury, and bare feet in the jungle are an invitation for something to crawl, sting, or bite before you're awake enough to stop it. You loosen the laces, air them out for a while, and then shove your feet back in, still damp, still sore, still bleeding. The smell is unbearable by then. Rotting leather, sweat, mildew, and blood all mixed together, rising in waves that make you gag if you breathe too close. But you get used to it, because there's no other choice. Sometimes you dream about shoes that actually work, dry boots with socks that stay clean, sandals that let your feet breathe, bare feet on cool grass. But those are fantasies. The reality is mud, rot, and infection waiting every time you lace up. Your boots don't protect you from the jungle. They trap the jungle against your skin and make sure you carry it with you everywhere you go. The enemy ahead is dangerous. The mines are deadly. The barbed wire will tear you apart. But before you even reach any of that, your own boots are already wearing you down, step by step, blister by blister, until walking itself feels like another battle you're losing slowly. You don't wake up wondering if you'll carry explosives today. You know you will. It's the job. And it doesn't care if your back already feels like it's splitting in half, or if your legs barely worked yesterday. The charges are waiting, and they don't feel lighter just because you're tired. They never do. You pick up the pack, and the first thing you feel is weight. Not the kind of weight that builds muscle or makes you stronger, but the kind that grinds you down bone by bone. Blocks of C4 wrapped tight, satchel charges bulging, blasting caps tucked where you pray they don't get jostled. Each one feels like a stone, and together they add up to a load that makes your shoulders scream before you've taken 3 steps. The straps cut into your skin, rubbing the same grooves deeper every day until the flesh is raw. Sweat mixes with the salt from yesterday's dried blood, and the sting never stops. You shift the pack, adjust the straps, try to balance the weight, but it doesn't matter. There's no good way to carry explosives through a jungle. There's just bad, worse, and unbearable. Every time you move, you think about what's inside. Explosives don't forgive mistakes. They don't care if you stumble, if you fall, if your pack slams against a rock or a tree. One bad hit, one faulty cap, and you won't even have time to realise you're gone. The charges don't care about your plans. They don't care about your training. They don't care about the difference between you and the enemy. They'll shred you apart the same way they'll shred wire, bunkers, or bridges. You learn to walk carefully, not because the jungle lets you, but because you have no choice. Every step is measured. Every stumble feels like the one that could end everything. Your body shakes from the effort of keeping steady under the load. Roots grab at your boots. Vines tangle around your legs. Mud sucks you down. And through it all you cling to the hope that nothing shifts inside the bag. You hear every clink, every faint scrape of metal on metal, and it makes your heart race faster than gunfire. The heat makes it worse. Sweat soaks the canvas, seeps into the pack until it smells like mildew mixed with chemicals. The dampness eats into the wrapping, and you start to wonder if it's weakening what's inside. You don't get an answer. You just keep moving, shoulders bowed, back aching, carrying death that belongs to everyone else, but rests on you for now. When you crouch low, the pack presses against your spine, forcing your knees to buckle harder. When you crawl on your belly, the straps drag across your ribs, pinching until you can barely breathe. When you run, the weight slams into you with every step, knocking the air out of your chest. There's no movement that isn't punished, no position that feels safe. The pack is always there, reminding you what you're carrying, and what it could do to you if it decides to. Sometimes you set it down just for a minute to stretch your shoulders and let the blood flow back into your arms, but the moment it hits the ground, you feel panic rising. What if it shifted wrong? What if a blasting cap snapped? What if the jolt was enough? You stare at it, waiting for a sound, waiting for a flash, waiting for the end. It doesn't come, but the fear doesn't leave either. Picking it back up feels worse, because now you're reminded just how fragile the line is between carrying and being carried. You never forget what happened to others. The man who tripped and set off his own load. The one whose pack took a bullet and went up in an instant. The one who fell into a ditch and didn't come out because the explosives went first. You hear the stories. Sometimes you see the aftermath, and you know it could be you any moment. Every breath is borrowed. Every step is a gamble. The charges aren't light even when you're not moving. They weigh on your mind as much as your body. You lie awake at night, listening to the jungle, feeling the straps digging into your shoulders even when the pack is on the ground beside you. You dream of it going off. Dream of the sound. Dream of the way it would erase you without a trace. You wake up sweating. Reach for it to make sure it's still there, and hate yourself for touching it like it's a friend. Explosives don't give you comfort. They don't inspire confidence. They just wait, silent and heavy, until you need them. And when you do, it's worse. Because then you have to move closer, crawling under wire, dragging the load with you, pressing it into place, while your heart pounds so hard, you think it'll give you away. You handle them gently, carefully, but you know in the back of your head that careful doesn't mean safe. It just means not dead yet. There's no glory in carrying them. Nobody looks at you with admiration when you're hunched under a pack. Mud streaking down your face, sweat dripping into your eyes. They just see another man weighed down, another body trudging through the jungle, with something that could erase everyone in an instant. And you feel it too. You feel the indifference of the weight. The way it doesn't change no matter how you beg for relief. Explosives don't care. They never have. By the time you set the load down to do your work, your body is already breaking. Your back is bent, your shoulders raw, your legs trembling from the strain. But none of that matters, because the pack doesn't forgive excuses. It just sits there, heavy, silent, waiting for you to risk everything all over again. Darkness is supposed to be a relief. The sun finally gone, the heat less brutal, the chance to breathe without choking on steam. But in the jungle, in the war, darkness doesn't mean rest. It means movement. It means crawling. For a sapper, night is when the real work begins, And work means dragging yourself through mud and filth toward the wire, carrying explosives you don't want, toward defences you're not sure you'll survive crossing. You don't walk upright. Standing makes you a target, and targets don't last. You drop low the moment you move, belly pressed into wet earth that smells of rot and stagnant water. The mud soaks through instantly, running cold into your uniform, clinging heavy to your chest and legs. You push forward inch by inch, elbows grinding into the ground, knees sinking deep, face scraping against dirt that tastes like mildew and gun oil. Every breath you take stirs up the stench of decay mixed with your own sweat, and every exhale feels like a warning flare in the silence. It's never completely quiet. The night is full of sound, and every one of them claws at your nerves. Crickets scream in the grass. Frogs croak in the distance. Branches creak as something moves through them. You listen harder than you ever have, trying to separate normal jungle noise from footsteps, voices, or the metallic click of someone adjusting a rifle in the dark. Your ears ache from the effort, your head pounds with tension, but you can't stop. Listening is survival. The wire is ahead, but you can't see it yet. You only know it's there, stretched across the ground, like teeth waiting to tear you apart. You keep your eyes forward, straining through the gloom, scanning for the faint glint of moonlight off metal. Sometimes there's no moonlight at all, just pitch blackness that swallows everything. That's worse, because in pitch black, you have no idea if the next inch forward will slice into your flesh. Your body protests with every movement. The pack digs into your back, straps rubbing raw against your shoulders. The explosives shift with a dull thud that makes your blood run cold. You freeze, holding your breath, waiting for a shout, a flare, a burst of gunfire. Nothing comes, and you exhale slowly, push forward again, trying to move smoother this time. But there's no smooth in mud, only slow, awkward, desperate. Your hands find every root, every stone, every sharp stick hidden in the dirt. They scrape your palms until the skin breaks, blood mixing with mud, the sting lost in the bigger ache spreading through your arms. Your knees grind against rock, flesh bruising deeper with every inch. You can't stop. You don't dare. Every pause feels like a spotlight is about to snap on and expose you. So you keep dragging, slower, flatter, praying the ground stays soft enough to hide you. The air feels heavier at night, damp, thick, clinging to your face as you press lower. Your helmet slides down, bumping into the dirt, filling with grime until you feel it grinding against your scalp. Sweat pours down your face, dripping into your eyes, mixing with the muck. You blink through it, smear it away with a filthy sleeve, and keep going, the salt stinging but never stopping you. Some nights the wire is strung with cans or bottles that rattle if you touch them. Some nights it's tied with tripwires that trigger flares or mines. You never know which one is ahead. You crawl slower, inching forward like the ground itself could explode if you push too hard. Every nerve is alive, every muscle tense, your whole body screaming at you to turn back. But you don't. You can't. The explosives on your back aren't for decoration. They're for this moment, and this moment means pushing forward no matter how much you want to vanish into the mud. Voices drift from ahead sometimes. Men on the other side of the wire, talking low, maybe laughing. The sound freezes you in place, every muscle locked. You listen, heart pounding so loud you're sure it can be heard. One cough, one shuffle of your boots, and it's over. You lie there motionless, chest pressed into mud, lips against dirt, waiting for them to stop talking, waiting for them to move on. They never seem to. Every second stretches into hours, every breath into a risk. The fear isn't just being caught. It's being caught while carrying what you're carrying. If they spot you, if a flare goes up, you're done before the first bullet hits. The explosives don't care if you're on your stomach or on your feet. A stray round, a single spark, and you're gone in a flash that lights the whole jungle. Not just you, anyone near you, anyone unlucky enough to be crawling the same path. The pack on your back isn't just your burden. It's their death sentence too. You press on, elbows digging deeper, thighs burning, stomach cramped from holding yourself flat for so long. The mud finds every gap in your uniform, sliding cold into your boots, creeping against your skin until you feel soaked through to the bone. Bugs crawl across your face, into your ears, down your neck. You don't move to swat them away. You let them bite, let them feed, because raising your hand could be louder than your breath. Pain is safer than noise. Every inch forward is a calculation. Push too fast and you risk noise. Push too slow and you risk running out of time before dawn. The sky isn't kind enough to stay dark forever. Light is coming, and if you're not past the wire by then, you're done. The darkness hides you, but it also blinds you. You feel the ground more than you see it, palms sweeping ahead like antennae, searching for the sharp edge of barbed wire before it tears into you. When you finally see it, glinting faintly in the black, your stomach knots. It's worse to see it. The twisted metal, the cruel points designed to snag flesh, the faint shimmer of dew along its edges. You stop breathing for a moment, staring at it like it's alive. Then you force yourself lower, pressing flat against the dirt, an inch closer, every muscle tight with dread. The wire doesn't move, but it might as well be breathing. You imagine it catching on your pack, snagging your uniform, pulling at your skin until it rips you open. You picture the sound it'll make if you touch it, the way it'll sing through the night like a bell, the way voices ahead will snap alert in an instant. You picture the muzzle flashes, the bullets, the sudden burst of light as everything on your back goes up at once. And still you crawl closer, because that's what you're here for. That's what the explosives are for. That's why you're in the mud, sweating and shaking and praying the night keeps its cover. You keep moving, slower now, careful, deliberate. Each inch feels like it could be the last. The ground sticks to your chest, the mud sucks at your knees, and the wire looms just ahead, silent and sharp. Behind you is the jungle, heavy and unforgiving. Ahead of you is the barrier, waiting, and you're caught between them, crawling forward in the dark, carrying a pack that doesn't forgive mistakes. Barbed wire doesn't look terrifying until you're close enough to feel it. From a distance, it's just a fence, a line strung across the ground to keep people out. But when you're crawling toward it in the dark, belly pressed into mud, explosives strapped to your back, it doesn't look like a fence. It looks like teeth. Twisted strands of metal, sharpened to a cruel point, stretched in tangles so thick you can't see where one coil ends and the next begins. You can hear it before you touch it. Wire sings faintly when the wind moves it, a thin metallic hum that feels like it's waiting for you. Every time you shift closer, you imagine that sound echoing louder, carrying to the men on the other side who are listening just as hard as you are. The silence around you feels brittle, like the wire itself is holding its breath. The closer you get, the sharper it looks, Every barb is designed to tear, and it doesn't take much. A brush of cloth, a slip of skin, and the wire catches like a hook. It doesn't let go. You know what it can do because you've seen it before. Sleeves shredded open, trousers ripped to ribbons, arms sliced until blood runs freely down to the fingertips. Skin doesn't resist. It peels open like paper under the points. You don't go over it. Going over means standing, and standing means being seen. You go through it or under it, crawling so low that the wire scrapes against your helmet, pressing your face into the dirt until you're breathing mud. The strands snag anyway, tugging at your pack, scratching across your back. Each time you feel the pull, your stomach clenches. You freeze, breath stuck in your throat, waiting to hear the rattle of cans strung along it, or the clatter of bottles tied to alert the men ahead. One touch in the wrong place, and the jungle won't be silent anymore. Cutting it isn't simple either. Wire cutters don't glide. They bite with a crunch, a sound so loud in the dark it feels like a gunshot. You wince, grit your teeth, press the strands apart with hands that shake from more than just the effort. Every cut is a risk. Every snap of metal echoing in your skull while you pray no one else hears it. You move fast, but not too fast. Steady hands, slow breaths, praying the wire gives way without pulling the rest of it into a rattle. Some sections are doubled or tripled, rows upon rows of coils, staggered so you can't just crawl through one and be done. You squeeze through the first, scrape against the second, curse under your breath as a barb tears at your sleeve. The uniform gives easily, fabric ripping apart with the faintest snag. Then it's your skin. The point slides in shallow, but enough. A sting out, then warmth as blood seeps out and soaks into the damp cloth. You don't stop. You can't. You keep moving forward, body pressed flat, ignoring the pain, ignoring the fresh wetness spreading along your arm or your leg. Blood isn't your only problem. Infection waits for every cut. The wire isn't clean. It's rusted, filthy, coated with mud, and whatever's been left clinging to it from weeks of rain and rot. A scratch here isn't just a scratch. It's a wound that swells, festers, spreads until you're limping from fever a few days later. You know it, but you keep going anyway, because stopping isn't an option. Sometimes you don't have the chance to cut it. You're crawling under fire, rounds snapping overhead, flares hissing into the sky, and there's no time for precision. You throw yourself against the coils, push through with brute force, letting the barbs tear at you while you shove your pack ahead. The wire rips skin open in strips, bites into your thighs, your arms, your face. You taste blood before you realise your cheek is open. You grunt, press harder, rip free, leaving pieces of your uniform and patches of skin clinging to the strands behind you. The wire doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your training, your desperation, your mission. It's built to shred anyone who touches it, and it does the job mercilessly. It's not a wall you can respect. It's not a door you can knock on. It's a predator lying in wait, patient and silent until you're too close to avoid it. And when it takes its share of your flesh, it doesn't even notice. By the time you make it past, your arms are burning, your legs stinging, your uniform in tatters. The mud sticks to fresh wounds, clinging in thick layers that sting like fire. You don't stop to check the damage. You don't dare. You just keep moving, crawling lower, praying the noise of your own body against the earth drowns out the sound of the wire behind you, still humming faintly in the night. Past the wire, you'd think the worst part is over. You've cut yourself raw on twisted metal, bled into the mud, left shreds of uniform hanging behind you like breadcrumbs. But the wire isn't the end of anything. It's only the start. What waits beyond it is worse, because at least you can see the wire. The mines and tripwires don't show themselves. They sit quiet in the dark, waiting for the weight of your boot or the brush of your hand. They don't need to shout. They just wait. Every inch forward is a question you don't want to answer. Is the patch of ground ahead solid, or is it hiding something buried? Does that vine running across the dirt belong to the jungle, or is it a tripwire pulled tight, one touch away from detonation? The mud doesn't help. It hides everything. A fresh rain makes the surface smooth, washing away signs that might have warned you. You press your hands into it anyway, crawling, hoping the next handful of earth doesn't shift under you with the hollow give of a trap. You've seen what they do to men. The jungle remembers every explosion. One step too far, and someone ahead of you vanishes in a flash of dirt and flame, leaving behind only a scream and pieces you can't put back together. A mine doesn't just kill clean, it mangles. Shins torn away, feet gone, shrapnel driven deep into thighs and stomachs. The blast doesn't end with the first man either. Those behind are showered with steel and bone, blinded, deafened, left gasping in the mud with holes you can't patch. One mine, one mistake, and an entire squad is finished before the enemy even knows you're there. The tripwires are worse in some ways, because you don't see them until it's too late. Thin lines of wire stretched across paths, tied to grenades, to flares, to claymores waiting patiently in the brush. Your eyes strain in the dark, trying to pick them out against the roots and vines. Sometimes you spot them just in time, a faint glimmer of taut metal where it shouldn't be. Sometimes you don't. You're crawling, sweating, your helmet low, your pack heavy, and your arm brushes one. That faint tug is all it takes. Accidents happen even when you do everything right. A man shifts too quickly, trips over his own rifle, and the jolt triggers something buried. Another loses his grip on the cutters, the metal snapping against a strand that wasn't supposed to be live but is. Explosives are patient. They don't care about intentions. They just wait for contact, and contact always comes. The worst part is the silence before it. That half second when you feel something shift under your palm or your knee, the faint crunch of metal hidden in the earth. Your stomach drops, your breath catches, and you know what's about to happen. Sometimes nothing does. Sometimes it's just a rock, just a stick. You breathe again, trembling and keep crawling, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the silence ends in fire. You carry charges meant to break defences, but the ground itself carries more than you. You don't know who placed them, or when, or how many are left. Could have been days ago, could have been months. Some of them don't even need to be perfect anymore. Rust, mud, and pressure have warped them, made them more unstable. A touch that wouldn't have set them off yesterday does tonight. A mine that should have misfired decides it won't this time. The jungle loads the dice against you, and you crawl forward anyway, because that's the job. The tension never leaves your body. Your arms shake, not from exhaustion, but from the need to stay precise. Your knees burn because you're holding yourself higher than you want, hovering just above the mud to avoid brushing against something hidden. Your eyes ache from staring at the ground, scanning every inch, every shadow, every root that might be more than it looks. The muscles in your neck lock tight, your jaw clenched so hard you feel pain shoot into your skull. Hours pass like this, one slow drag forward at a time, until time itself stops meaning anything. When a mine goes off near you, the blast isn't just sound, it's pressure. A violent punch that slams into your chest and rattles your skull, leaving your ears ringing and your vision blurred. You taste dirt in your teeth, blood in your mouth, and you know the damage is permanent. You scramble to keep moving, even though your head is spinning, because stopping means the next one might find you too. It's not just enemy mines either. Sometimes it's your own explosives. Satchel charges dropped in the mud, blasting caps jostled the wrong way, grenades loosened from webbing. You crawl through a field of hidden weapons you're carrying, and the ones they left behind, and you pray the two don't meet. Some men don't make it past their own mistakes. You remember them every time your hand closes around a piece of gear. The fear doesn't end when you pass through. Even after you've crawled beyond the fields, even when the ground seems solid again, your mind doesn't let go. Every twig snapping underfoot sounds like a trigger. Every vine brushing your leg feels like wire. You move faster, but the panic follows. Every step, another gamble you're not sure you've won until the day ends and you realise you're still alive. And that's the cruel part. Mines and tripwires don't have to kill you to win. They just have to keep you crawling slow, tense, worn out before you even reach the fight. They strip away your focus, break down your confidence, force you into mistakes born from exhaustion. By the time you make it through, you're already half defeated, body shaking, nerves shredded, blood running from cuts you don't even remember getting. And the real fight still waits ahead. You'd think the worst part of war would be the noise, the gunfire, the explosions, the shouts, and those are bad, but they're obvious. They're sharp and violent, but at least you know what they are. The silence is different. The silence doesn't tell you anything. It just hangs there, waiting, and your mind fills it with every possibility you don't want to think about. Silence isn't peace out here. Silence is pressure. The jungle is never quiet, not completely. There are always insects buzzing, frogs croaking, leaves shifting, water dripping. That's the baseline. When it stops, or even just dips, every muscle in your body locks up. Your ears strain, searching for something that isn't there, waiting for the sound that breaks it. The silence becomes its own alarm, and the longer it stretches, the louder it feels. Lying in the mud, you listen harder than you've ever listened to anything in your life. You start hearing your own body, and that's worse. The thump of your pulse in your ears, the scrape of your breath against your throat, the faint pop of your joints when you shift an inch. Sounds you've never noticed before feel deafening now. Each one a betrayal. Each one threatening to give you away. You press yourself flatter against the ground, trying to smother even those, as if you can force your body to shut up. Sometimes you convince yourself you hear things that aren't there. A footstep behind you, a whisper just out of reach, the metallic click of a safety being released. You freeze, heart hammering, waiting for the follow-up that never comes. The silence twists your senses until you can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. You stare into the dark, certain a shadow just moved, certain a figure is crouched there, rifle pointed straight at you. Then nothing happens, and the silence presses harder, mocking you for believing it. Other times, you know the enemy is there, and that's worse. You've heard them before. their voices carried faintly through the trees, their boots slapping against wet ground, the sound of them setting up, getting ready. Then suddenly it stops. No voices, no movement, just quiet. And you're left lying there, unsure if they melted away or if they're waiting for you to move first. That silence feels heavier than any explosion. At least explosions end the waiting. Silence just keeps dragging it out. It gets inside your head. Every second without noise stretches into an hour. You start counting breaths, counting heartbeats, measuring time in tiny fragments just to keep from going insane. Your nerves fray, your focus sharpens too far, until the smallest sound feels like a bomb going off, a drop of water hitting a leaf, a rat scurrying through the brush, the distant flap of wings. Each one jerks your body like a jolt of electricity. You're wound so tight the silence feels like it's pulling you apart. The worst is when you're carrying charges and waiting for the signal to move. You lie there, pack digging into your back, falls in the mud, and the silence stretches on. Every second feels like the moment before a trigger pulls. You imagine the gunfire erupting. Imagine flares bursting overhead. Imagine the whole jungle lighting up around you. But it doesn't. Nothing happens. You just lie there, sweating into the dirt, gripping your weapon so hard your hands cramp. The silence drags it out until the anticipation itself feels like torture. And when the noise finally does come, it's almost a relief. The crack of gunfire, the thump of mortars, the shouts in the dark. The silence breaks, and your body reacts before your mind does. You move, you fire, you crawl forward. Adrenaline takes over. At least then you know what you're facing. But the silence always comes back. The jungle always falls quiet again after the noise. And that's when it's worse than before. Because now you know what can happen in the space between. Silence isn't empty. Silence is crowded. It's filled with every fear you've ever had. Every memory of what you've seen before. Every possibility of what could happen next. It screams louder than bombs, because bombs end. Silence doesn't. It stretches until it feels like it's going to split you open, and still it keeps going. You don't pray for quiet. You pray for the steady background noise of the jungle, the shrill chorus of insects and frogs that tells you nothing's moving, nothing's coming yet. Because the moment it cuts out, the moment the jungle itself holds its breath, you know you're not alone. And that silence is enough to break you before a single shot is ever fired. The night never stays still for long. 1 second you're pressed flat in the mud, sweating into the earth, the silence stretching out so far it feels like it might split your skull. The next, the world erupts. It doesn't build slowly. It doesn't warn you. It just happens. Gunfire snaps through the dark, with no rhythm, no warning. 1 shot, then a burst, then another from somewhere else. The sound doesn't echo cleanly in the jungle. It ricochets between the trees, bouncing in ways that make it impossible to tell direction. Every crack feels like it's aimed at you. Every burst like it's chewing through the mud inches from your skull. You drop flatter, push your face into the dirt, and pray the rounds find something else before they find you. Flares follow fast. They hiss into the sky, bursting overhead with a harsh white light that blinds after the blackness. Shadows vanish, replaced with everything laid bare in a pale glow. The jungle looks wrong in it, washed out, flat, like a nightmare landscape. Your body seizes up the moment you see it. Every instinct screams at you not to move, not to even breathe, because you don't know if you're in the beam or just outside it. The light swings as the flare drifts, casting shifting shadows across the ground, and you're frozen inside them, praying you look enough like mud to stay invisible. The flares don't come one at a time. They come in waves, hissing up, bursting, drifting, then another fired before the first has even burned out. The night fills with them, sky glowing, jungle glowing, every tree and vine standing out like stage scenery. You're not hidden anymore. You're exposed, crawling with explosives on your back. Every move a risk that the light will catch the shine of your weapon, the glint of your eyes, the shift of your body. You've trained yourself to crawl slowly, carefully, but under flares your nerves betray you. Muscles twitch, your chest heaves, you press your fingers harder into the dirt as if you could bury yourself deeper. The gunfire doesn't stop. It comes in bursts, sweeping arcs, lines of fire tearing through brush just to hit something, anything. The air fills with the whip crack of rounds passing overhead, the thud of bullets slamming into trees, the splinters and dirt flying where they strike. Each one feels like it missed you by inches, and maybe it did. You don't know. You can't look. You just keep your body pressed low, praying the pack doesn't shift, praying nothing sparks. The sounds pile on top of each other. Rifles, machine guns, the dull thump of mortars sending shells that land with ground shaking force somewhere too close to matter. The jungle itself reacts, branches snapping, leaves tearing, birds and animals shrieking as they scatter. The air is alive with noise, overwhelming, drowning your own thoughts. You can't think in straight lines anymore. You just react. Flinch, press lower, push forward an inch when you think you can. And then there are the voices. Shouts in the dark. Not always in English. Not always near enough to understand. But close enough to know men are moving, calling, signalling. Sometimes it screams, sharp and cut off fast, or drawn out until your stomach clenches. You can't tell if it's your side or theirs. It doesn't matter. Each one reminds you what's waiting if the light finds you. The flares cast shadows that move when nothing else does. Branches twist in the glow, turning into figures, rifles, shapes that seem to shift every time you blink. Your mind starts to break them into threats, convincing you that every dark patch is someone standing there, staring straight at you. You freeze again, unable to breathe, until the flare burns out and the jungle plunges back into blackness. The sudden dark is almost worse. You've been exposed, and now you're blind again. You don't know if the eyes you imagined are real, if the rifles were pointed or not. You just know you're still crawling, and the night isn't over. It feels endless. The hissing flare, the blinding light, the machine gun sweeping the trees, the shouting, the explosions. Your body is caught between wanting to sprint and knowing you'd be dead in a second if you tried. So you crawl, slower than you thought possible, mud coating your face, sweat stinging your eyes, heart pounding so hard you're sure it can be heard above the gunfire. Every inch forward feels like gambling, and every gamble feels like it's already lost. When a flare lights directly above you, you see everything too clearly. Your hands black with mud, your uniform ripped and soaked, your arms trembling from holding yourself flat for hours. The wire behind you still glitters with drops of blood. Ahead is more ground, more mud, maybe more traps, maybe the enemy staring back. You can't stop. You can't turn around. You keep moving because the only thing worse than the light finding you here is never reaching your target at all. The nightmares aren't only in your head when you sleep. They're here, in real time, unfolding as you crawl forward. Light, noise, fear, all hammering at you until you don't know if you're alive or dreaming. Your nerves are shredded, your mind fractured, your body moving on reflex more than thought. And through it all, the gunfire keeps coming, the flares keep hissing, and the night keeps showing you just how thin the line is between living through it and vanishing in the glow. You never really see them. That's the part that gets under your skin. The enemy isn't standing in front of you with a uniform you recognise, waiting for a clear fight. They're part of the jungle. They're in the shadows, in the silence, in the rustle of leaves that might be wind or might be a man moving slower than you can imagine. You don't see them, but you feel them. Always. It starts with sound, or the absence of it. The jungle has a rhythm. Insects buzzing, frogs croaking, branches creaking. When it shifts, when a note drops out and you notice, you lie there in the mud, heart racing, and you know something's wrong. You can't prove it, you can't point to it, but your gut tells you someone is close. Close enough to smell you. Close enough to hear the rasp of your breath if you don't press your face harder into the dirt. The worst part is you never know how many. It could be one man with a rifle or an entire squad crawling just as carefully as you are, their eyes locked on the same patch of ground you're moving across. You imagine them everywhere, behind the next tree, crouched in the next ditch, lying silent with their rifles already aimed. The jungle feeds the paranoia. Shadows twist in the dim light, vines dangle like tripwires, and every movement looks like someone waiting to strike. Sometimes it's more than imagination. You hear the faint cough, the low murmur of voices in a language you don't understand. You freeze, body locking tight, barely daring to breathe. The voices stop, and that's worse. Silence means they heard you too. You wait, face pressed into the mud, sweat running into your eyes, every muscle trembling. Minutes stretch into hours, and you're not sure if they're still there, or if they slipped away to circle behind you. The enemy knows this terrain better than you ever will. They move through it like it's theirs, because it is. They know the trails, the streams, the hiding spots. They set traps where you least expect them, lay in wait where you think it's clear. You feel outmatched even before the first shot is fired. They don't need to fight you head on. They let the jungle fight for them. Heat, bugs, rot, mud, silence, all softening you up before they even pull a trigger. You carry explosives, but they carry patience. They can lie still for hours, even days, without moving, without making a sound. You try it, and within minutes your muscles cramp, bugs crawl into your ears, sweat drips off your nose. You break before they do, and that's when they strike. You never hear the first shot until it's already tearing through leaves beside your head. Even when you don't see them, you know they're there. That knowledge seeps into everything. You drink water and wonder if they poison the stream. You step into a clearing and feel eyes on you, even when the trees look empty. You lie down to rest and dream of footsteps circling your position, rifles clicking in the dark. You wake up already tense, body braced for a fight that hasn't started yet. Every shadow becomes suspicious. Every rustle becomes a warning. You stare into the dark until your vision blurs, convinced there's a man standing just at the edge of sight. You blink, and he's gone, or maybe he was never there. You can't tell anymore. Your mind is worn thin, stretched too far by weeks of waiting for an attack that comes without pattern, without mercy. And then, sometimes, you really do see them. A flash of movement between trees. A figure low to the ground, slipping away before you can raise your rifle. You fire anyway, rounds snapping into the jungle. And maybe you hit something, maybe you didn't. You'll never know. The silence returns just as fast, heavier now, pressing down harder, leaving you sweating and shaking with adrenaline. The enemy vanishes again, and you're back where you started, crawling through mud, explosives strapped to your back, waiting for the next flash you might not survive. They're never far. You can feel it. Even when the jungle looks empty. Even when the night is quiet. Even when your eyes tell you you're alone. Your body knows better. The enemy is close. Closer than you want to admit. And the fear of not seeing them is worse than the sight of them ever could be. Because when you see them, at least you know. When you don't, the whole jungle becomes the enemy, and there's nowhere left to look without feeling like death is already watching back. Pain is constant out here, but injury is different. Pain you live with. You scratch, you limp, you sweat, you curse. It becomes background noise, just another part of the jungle pressing down on you. But injury pulls you out of that rhythm. Injury reminds you how fragile you really are, and how little mercy there is in a place like this. It doesn't take a bullet to put you down. A bad fall in the mud, a slip against the wire, a sharp rock under your knee can open you up in ways that don't heal. Cuts never stay clean here. The jungle infects everything. Sweat runs into the wound. Mud cakes across it. Insects crawl straight for it. Within a day it's swollen, red, throbbing. Within 2, it's oozing pus, stinking worse than your uniform. You wrap it if you have a bandage, but bandages run out fast, and once they're soaked through, they're useless. Most of the time, you just leave it open, knowing it'll fester, but having no other choice. Burns are worse, and you don't need an explosion to get them. The sun scorches through gaps in the canopy, searing your neck, your arms, your face. The metal of your rifle heats until it burns your palms. Even your own charges can do it. Satchel bags, leaking chemicals that eat into your skin. Blasting caps sparking too close. Fire from a cooking attempt gone wrong. Burns never stay small. The skin blisters, peels, cracks open. And then infection sets in again. Blisters from boots don't sound like much until you've walked miles with them raw. The skin peels back, bleeding into your socks, softening until it's just open meat rubbing against wet fabric. Every step feels like fire. You can't stop walking. You can't take the boots off. So you keep going until the sores spread, until your feet swell and stink, until you can barely stand. And still you march because falling behind isn't an option. Broken bones don't wait for hospitals out here. A bad twist in the mud, a fall into a ditch, a hit from debris when a blast goes off, any of it can snap something that won't heal on its own. There's no plaster, no x-rays, no clean room to rest. Just a stick splint tied with filthy cloth, and the demand to keep moving. Painkillers are rare. Morphine gets rationed, and usually not for something as simple as a fracture. You grit your teeth, scream into your sleeve, and crawl anyway, dragging the weight of your pack across ground that doesn't care if your bones grind with every inch. Gunshot wounds carry their own horrors. A clean exit is rare. Most rounds tear jagged paths, shredding flesh, breaking bone, leaving holes you can't patch. You press cloth into it, pray it slows the bleeding, and know in your gut that infection will finish what the bullet didn't. If you're lucky, someone drags you back. If you're not, you're left there in the mud, because the mission doesn't stop for one man. Explosives have to reach the wire, and nobody can risk everyone else for the chance you might live. Shrapnel is worse because it scatters. Tiny shards of steel driven into skin, buried deep where fingers can't reach. You dig with a knife if you're desperate, tearing yourself open wider just to get the metal out. More often you leave it, let it sit, and watch the flesh around it turn red, then black. Fever follows, sweating, shivering, trembling through the night while you lie in the mud with no blanket, no medicine, nothing to help. Sometimes the fever breaks, sometimes it doesn't. Disease hits harder than wounds. Malaria, dysentery, dengue, each one chews at you in its own way. Fever so hot you feel like you're boiling from the inside. Stomach cramps that double you over, leave you weak, unable to crawl an inch. Diarrhea that drains you until you're too light-headed to lift your head. There's no treatment out here. Pills run out. Supplies don't come. You drink filthy water because it's all there is, and you pray the next swallow doesn't rot your guts further. Injuries never mean rest. They mean more work. You carry them like extra weight. You strap explosives to your back with bandaged ribs, crawl through wire with blood seeping into your sleeves, march on feet that scream with every step. Nobody stops for you. Nobody waits. You're either moving with the group, or you're left behind. And being left behind in the jungle is a death sentence. Mercy doesn't exist here. Not from the enemy, not from the jungle, not from the tools you carry. Explosives don't care if you're already bleeding. Mines don't care if your ribs are broken. Barbed wire doesn't care if your hands are blistered raw. The work goes on, and you go on with it, dragging your broken body forward, because the alternative is lying down and letting the jungle finish you off. You learn to live with pain until you can't tell where it ends and you begin. Cuts become part of you. Burns become part of you. Fever becomes part of you. The body stops feeling whole, and instead becomes a collection of wounds wrapped together in one uniform, moving forward out of habit more than strength. That's what survival looks like here. Not healing, not recovery. Just lasting another hour, another crawl, another night. Hunger is the one thing that never leaves you alone. The gunfire stops, the flares burn out, even the insects quiet sometimes. But hunger is always there, sitting in your gut, chewing at you from the inside. You walk up with it. You march with it. You crawl with it. You lie down at night with it still gnawing, dull and deep. A constant reminder that your body is being used up faster than you can feed it. The rations never match the work. A can of beans, a slab of pressed meat, a cracker that tastes like cardboard. None of it adds up to the miles you march. The mud you wade through, the wire you cut, the charges you carry. The calories burn away before you finish swallowing. And what's left behind is emptiness. Not sharp hunger, not the kind that makes you desperate for a meal, just a hollow ache that never fades. You chew slow, not because you're savouring anything, but because dragging it out makes it feel like more. You sip water between bites, trying to trick your stomach into thinking it's fuller than it is. It doesn't work. Within an hour, you're already light-headed, your legs heavy, your arms trembling when you lift your rifle. The jungle doesn't wait for you to catch up. You keep moving with a body that feels like it's running on fumes. When the rations run out, it gets worse. Supply lines break, drops don't come, and you're left with scraps. Rice if you're lucky, dried fish if you're less lucky, Sometimes nothing at all. You march with an empty stomach, sucking on pebbles to keep your mouth wet, chewing leaves just to pretend you're eating. Your belly cramps, twisting tighter each hour, until it's not hunger anymore but pain. You get used to the sound of it growling, a low reminder that your own body is turning against you. The jungle teases you with food you can't trust. Bright fruit hanging from branches, berries scattered across the ground, animals scurrying through the brush. Some of it might feed you. Some of it might kill you. One wrong bite and you're doubled over in the mud, vomiting until you can't lift your head. Poison doesn't care that you are starving. It just adds another layer of misery to the pile. You start noticing the way hunger changes people. Conversations revolve around food that isn't there. Men talk about meals they used to eat, Sazzy. Steak, potatoes, fried chicken, eggs sizzling in pans. They list them like prayers, voices dull, eyes glazed. It's not nostalgia. It's torture. Every memory makes the hunger sharper. You listen anyway, because even imagining food feels better than the silence in your stomach. Your body shrinks under it. Muscles soften, ribs start showing, cheeks hollow. You feel weaker every day, but the work never stops. You still carry explosives, still crawl through wire, still march for miles. Hunger makes you clumsy. You trip more, stumble more, drop things you can't afford to drop. Your hands shake when you're trying to work a fuse. Your vision blurs when you're aiming down your rifle. The jungle doesn't need to starve you completely, just enough to make you slower, sloppier, easier to finish. Even when you do eat, the food sits wrong. Canned meat heavy in your stomach, rice gritty between your teeth, crackers turning to paste that clings to your tongue. You don't feel satisfied afterward. You just feel heavier, sluggish, like your body is confused by being given fuel for once. The hunger doesn't leave. It waits a few minutes, then comes back stronger, reminding you it's not finished with you yet. At night, it's worse. You lie in the mud, stomach gnawing at itself, listening to the sounds of others shifting restlessly, each of them just as hollow. Sleep doesn't come easy when your gut twists tighter with every breath. Even when you do drift off, dreams are filled with food you can't touch. Plates of steaming meals, glasses of cold milk, bread warm from the oven. You wake up with your mouth wet, your stomach cramping, and nothing to eat but another tin can that tastes like metal and regret. The hunger never really stops. It doesn't give you a break. It eats you slowly day after day, leaving you weaker, smaller, emptier. It strips away everything that makes you feel human. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how tough you thought you'd be. The hunger wins in the end, because it's patient. And out here, there's no end to it. Just another day, another march, another meal that doesn't come close to filling the hole inside you. You're never far from water out here. It drips from leaves, pools in the mud, rushes through streams that snake across the jungle floor. Rain falls so often, it feels like the sky itself is leaking. You're soaked in it day and night, your boots squishing with every step, your uniform sticking to your skin like a wet rag you can't peel off. Water is everywhere, but that doesn't mean it's safe. Most of the time it's poison, waiting to eat you alive from the inside. Your canteen runs dry faster than you want it to. You ration it carefully, each sip measured, warm and metallic, tasting of the aluminum it's carried in. You know you should make it last, but the heat wrings sweat out of you until your body is screaming for more. You drink faster than you should, and suddenly it's empty, the weight on your belt lighter, the hollow slosh reminding you there's nothing left. That's when you look at the streams, the puddles, the rain dripping from leaves, and you start asking yourself how desperate you really are. You've been told not to drink from the jungle. Everyone has. The water carries things you can't see. Parasites, bacteria, chemicals from bombs and defoliants poured down weeks before. One swallow can mean fever, cramps, diarrhea so violent you can't stand, dysentery that drains you dry until you're too weak to crawl. Malaria doesn't just come from bites. It waits in the water too, creeping in through every careless gulp. The jungle is full of rivers, but each one is a loaded weapon. The purification tablets help sometimes. You drop them in, shake the canteen, wait for the chemical sting to fade. The water still tastes foul, sharp, like drinking bleach mixed with dirt. It burns your throat, makes your stomach churn, but you drink it anyway because thirst doesn't care. Thirst makes you reckless. You tell yourself the tablets worked, that they killed whatever was waiting. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they didn't. You find out later, curled up in the mud, shivering and sweating as your body empties itself from both ends, and there's no medic around to do more than tell you to keep drinking. Rain should be safe, but even that betrays you. The sky pours down in sheets, soaking everything, flooding the ground until you're walking in ankle-deep muck. You open your mouth, tilt your head back, drink straight from it. It's clean for a moment, cool sliding down your throat, the only relief you've felt all day. Then you remember what else is in the air. Smoke from burning villages, chemicals sprayed to strip the jungle bare, dust from explosions drifting for miles. You drink anyway. What choice do you have? Sometimes the only water is what collects in bomb craters. Pools of stagnant liquid, green on the surface, wriggling with larvae, stinking of fuel and rot. You kneel down, scoop it up, strain it through cloth if you're careful. The cloth turned brown, the taste still foul, but you swallow because your body is screaming louder than your brain can reason. Hours later, the cramps start. Your stomach twists, sweat pours, your vision blurs, and you know the water is winning. You don't stop drinking it the next time though. Thirst is always stronger than memory. The thirst does things to your mind. Your lips crack until they bleed, your tongue swells, your throat sticks shut. You think about ice, about cold glasses sweating on a table, about water fountains you barely noticed back home. The images torture you. Every drop in your canteen feels like gold. You guard it, sip it, tilt it carefully, stretching it further than it can go. And when it's gone, you're back to staring at muddy puddles, knowing they'll kill you slowly but still bringing them to your lips. Water doesn't just poison from inside, it poisons your body slowly from the outside too. Your boots fill with it until your feet rot. Your skin stays damp until sores open, pus seeping from cracks that never heal. You sit in it, sleep in it, march in it. The dampness weakens you, breaks your body apart, and still you can't escape it. The jungle is water, and the jungle is death. You don't die of thirst out here. The jungle won't let you. It keeps water everywhere, dangling just close enough to tempt you, just dangerous enough to ruin you. You don't wither away dry. You rot from the inside, drowning slowly in what you thought would save you. Out here, death doesn't always roar. It doesn't always come with explosions, shouting, or the dramatic end you imagine from stories. Most of the time, it's quiet. It slips in faster than you can react, faster than you can even register. 1 second you're crawling, sweating, cursing under your breath. The next, someone next to you is gone. It can be a bullet you never hear. The crack of a rifle doesn't reach you until after the round has already passed. Sometimes it doesn't reach you at all. A man is moving beside you, his face pressed into the mud like yours, his elbows dragging him forward. Then he jerks once, twice, and he's still. You don't stop to look. You don't call out. You keep moving, heart hammering, waiting to feel the same punch in your own chest. Later, maybe, you glance back and see the dark stain spreading through his uniform, but by then it's just another shadow in the mud. Minds end it faster. One misplaced step, one hand pressed into the wrong patch of ground, and the silence is broken by a flash that blinds you, and a shockwave that rattles your teeth. When your vision clears, the man ahead of you isn't whole anymore. Sometimes he's just gone, vanished in the burst, leaving nothing but dirt and blood hanging in the air. Sometimes he's screaming, what's left of his body writhing in the mud. You want to help, but you can't. There's no medicine for what's missing. No time to carry someone when you're still crawling through the same field that just took him. The jungle swallows him, and you keep moving, guilt gnawing but survival louder. Barbed wire kills quietly too. One snag is all it takes. A man gets caught, panics, pulls hard, and the cans tied to the wire rattle. A flare hisses into the sky. The guns open up. He doesn't last long. You see him silhouetted in the white glow, arms caught in the coils, body jerking as her rounds tear into him. The sound doesn't last more than a few seconds, but the image burns into your skull. You never forget how fast a man can vanish into light and noise. Sometimes death doesn't even bother with violence. Disease does it slower, but just as surely. Fever climbs so high a man can't stand. Dysentery drains him until he can't lift his rifle. Malaria wrings the life out of him over days, sweating and shivering, delirious until he just stops breathing. There's no ceremony, no last words. Just a body too weak to keep fighting, and a jungle too indifferent to care. He slips away quietly, and the mission goes on without him. The explosives on your back carry their own kind of silent threat. One spark, one jolt, one mistake, and you don't get a warning. You don't get pain. You just vanish, erased so completely that the others are left staring at the crater where you used to be, blinking through the dirt and smoke, knowing it could have been them. No one says your name. They don't have time. They press forward, stepping through what's left, because hesitation means more death. The quietest ones are the ambushes. You're crawling, listening to your own heart thump, and suddenly the night erupts. Rifles, grenades, machine guns. Men drop before they even scream. You're flat against the ground, ears ringing, and you realise the ones who fell never made a sound. 1 second they were alive, the next they weren't. You lie there, waiting for your turn, praying the bullets pass over you. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You learn quickly not to think of death as something distant. It's close, always close. The jungle is full of it. You smell it in the air, sour and sweet, drifting from bodies left where they fell. You see it in the mud, blood mixing until the ground itself looks alive. You hear it in the silence after a firefight, the absence of voices that were there minutes before. Death doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just takes. And when it comes, it doesn't come with mercy. It doesn't pause to let you speak. Doesn't give you the dignity of a farewell. Most men don't die with words on their lips. They die with mud in their mouth. with sweat in their eyes, with fear pressing down so hard they never have time to form a thought. Quiet, quick, gone. That's how it happens, again and again, until you stop asking if you'll see it and start wondering when. The sun rises, but it doesn't feel like a new day. It feels like the same one that never stopped. You open your eyes in the mud, your uniform stiff, your body sore, your stomach empty, and you realise you never really slept. You just closed your eyes for a while and drifted in and out of shallow dreams that gave you no rest. The insects didn't stop biting. The damp didn't stop soaking. The fear didn't stop pressing down. Morning doesn't bring relief. It just means the cycle starts again. The heat climbs fast, thicker than before, pressing against your chest, clinging to your skin. Sweat comes before you've even moved, rolling down your face, soaking into fabric that never dried from yesterday's rain. Your boots are still full of mud, your feet already raw, and you've barely stood up. You shoulder your pack, feel the straps dig into the same grooves, the same saws, and you march forward like you never stopped marching. The smells rise with the heat. Sweat, mildew, rot, smoke. They never left, but in the morning they sharpen, filling your throat, settling in your stomach until you feel sick before you've even eaten. Breakfast doesn't help. A tin can cracked open, the greasy meat inside tasting of metal and chemicals. You swallow it anyway, even as your gut twists tighter, because hunger doesn't leave you any choice. The food doesn't give strength. It just adds another layer of discomfort to carry. The jungle doesn't change. The same mud sucks at your boots. The same insects swarm your ears. The same roots and vines wait to trip you. The terrain repeats until it feels like you're walking in circles, trapped in a world made only of green, brown, and damp air. You push forward, but the day feels endless, a blur of sweat and footsteps, each one heavier than the last. Every sound keeps your nerves raw. The jungle hums with life, but every shift, every rustle, every distant crack makes you flinch. You know the enemy could be anywhere, watching, waiting. You carry explosives on your back, heavy and indifferent. The weight a constant reminder that you're one mistake from vanishing. The ground beneath you might be solid, or it might be hiding a mine. You can't know. You just keep moving because stopping isn't safer. You wait for night as if it will save you, but when it comes, it isn't rest. Night is crawling through mud, pushing under wire, cutting slowly while the silence presses in. Night is gunfire breaking without warning, flares hissing into the sky, shadows vanishing under white light that leaves you exposed. Night is worse hunger, worse thirst, worse fear. You lie down when it's over, but you don't sleep. You just start waiting for morning again. The days don't end here. They smear together, one into the next, with no real line between them. You don't count them after a while. There's no reason. Each one is the same hunger, the same thirst, the same rot in your boots, the same blood soaking into mud that doesn't remember it by the next sunrise. The jungle doesn't care what day it is. The war doesn't care what day it is. Your body doesn't care anymore either. It just moves forward because it has to, because the only alternative is lying down and letting the cycle finish you. Out here, a day isn't 24 hours. It's forever. It stretches without mercy, dragging you through heat, mud, fear, silence, hunger, and pain, and then it drags you again the next time the sun rises. You keep going, not because there's an end, but because there isn't. the day never really ends. And that's it for tonight. You've seen what it meant to crawl through mud with explosives. What it meant to face hunger, thirst, disease, and the silence that pressed harder than any weapon. The life of a sapper in Vietnam wasn't about glory. It was about survival, hour by hour, under conditions most of us wouldn't last a day in. If you're still awake, thanks for sticking through it with me. If you drifted off somewhere in the middle, that's fine too. That's what this is here for. Before you go, remember to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is right now. It's always interesting seeing where everyone's tuning in. Take care of yourself, get some rest, and I'll see you in the next one.